Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. If you've been around the block a few times, it's going to be harder for these guys to sell you all kind of BS. Why? Because you know the limitations, or at least you have an idea of what could happen and what could not happen, or if that's something normal or is not normal. But if you live in a very cushioned environment in a basement or work from home and you don't go out, you don't read but watch CNN and all that, then you would have a very, very, very narrow worldview. The same if you watch only Fox, so don't get me like that. Therefore, you have to look at as many angles as possible at the issues that you're interested in, and I suggest you're interested in things that are very important, not what the price of beer is, which could be very important for some. Anyway, priorities, remember? So I have here an article that I think would exemplify how a non-news becomes big news. And it's not promoted by an unknown media outlet, but it's promoted by a mainstream media outlet, which they say something that is like, so what? What's that all about? I'm not making this video to promote that stupidity of the news that these guys promote, but to point out how stupid the news is, how stupidly promoted it is for people who say, yeah man, he's like that. Well, you haven't been even a quarter around the block yet. So, not you, obviously. These guys are, yeah man, that's right. And we're talking about Putin being paranoid. Again, that's another diagnostic, bam, on Putin, which, if you have at least 3 minutes memory span, you remember that Putin was already charged and diagnosed with so many mental illnesses and syphilises and paranoia again and all that he's I think the sickest person on this planet. Therefore, you should not believe those guys again, but people do believe them. So let's go and see what's going on with this article. Ram pam pam. We have this article from the Insider. So this is not like, jiggy biggy baga booga news. Is the Insider, my friends. Business Insider, I must add. So Putin built identical offices across Russia to conceal his location, a Russian intelligence officer who defected says. That's one, right? And then the other one is that he's paranoid about. The other one is Putin is so paranoid about being tracked. He travels in a secret gray train that stealthily blends in with other Russian locomotives, says a former elite Russian security officer. So now, let's just think about it. Why would he travel with something? Hey, that's Putin over there. Do you think that Putin is not, as any other leader, taking precautionary measures in not being blown up by a missile, by a bomb, by a bazooka? Don't you think? I mean, that's why I said at the beginning of this video, if you've been around the block at least halfway, you would realize that every free world leader has, people that look like him. Sometimes they go over there and he goes around for the same reason in time of peace. Peace, you know what I mean? Not really like what's going on here with Putin. Do you think that there are not actors over there that try to take out Putin? Psst. I mean, even Lindsey Graham, that little from South Carolina, I think, senator, he said, oh, nobody takes Putin out. And he should what? Just walk around like this? Each and every leader, or how do you want a president, dictator, tyrant, official, walks like that, goes stealthily. If you want me to give you another example, and you can put it in another context, remember how, for instance, in a war, like let's say Schwarzkopf, remember that great general from the Desert Storm? How close was he from Iraq when that coalition, the courageous coalition, attacked that desert country with a rusty military war machine? Of 20 million people. Remember, where was Schwarzkopf? Was he on the first tank over there, like it used to be, on a horse with his hatchet, not his cock around? Was he? No, he was 3,000 miles away in a freaking bunker. All right? And it was just a general. Well, we need him. Well, so you needed a general, the leader, the commander-in-chief. So that's why, if you know just a little bit of how things are conducted, you will realize this is no news. Yes, he travels like that. What do you expect him to do? I'm here, I'm driving my car, and if I say, oh, bye-bye, thank you very much. That's how it goes. Again, let's go back to this article and see what other people say here. So, Vladimir Putin rides in a train because planes can be tracked, correct? Said an FCO officer who defected. The train is indistinguishable from other Russian trains for stealth purposes, the officer said. Okay. His account aligned with previous reports that Putin secretly travels in trains to avoid being tracked, correct? So what is the big news here? I would like to know. What is it? And he said right here in the title, so paranoid. Well, if he's so paranoid, then everybody else is paranoid. So I'm talking about leaders. So therefore, if a general rule, it cannot be paranoid since it's a normality. My God. Russian president travels in a special train so he can avoid using planes that can be monitored on flight trackers. Said the former federal security officer who worked with the Russian leaders' security did. Okay, so, yeah, the train is intentionally designed to appear like an ordinary train, correct? Said Gleb blah blah blah, a former captain in the President Communication Directorate of the Federal Guard Service, per the Dossier Center for Investigative Journalism. Well, why don't you go and see who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline if you're investigating journalism, my friends? I think that would make more sense than telling BS about this. Stealthy plans, yes. I don't see any problems or fantastic thing about it. I don't see anything wrong about it. It's just they try to make it, another diagnostic for this guy. Well, he might be paranoid, but so is anybody else who's a world leader. Then you would say, well, he's so paranoid that he has, Secret Service around him to protect him. Well, and we have here in the United States, the former presidents have Secret Service around him, protecting him. Does that mean they're paranoid? No. You know exactly what I mean. Why is Trump still having, for instance, or any other president travels in those armored vehicles? For the same reason, not to be blown up. Why? Because you make some friends while you're in office. And you have crazies as well. I mean, remember just John Lennon, for instance. 1980 or 1982? 1980, I think it was. Remember that one? Central Park, Dakota building, blown up by that Chapman or whatever his name was. And he was just a rock star. Fading, but he was. Don't get mad with me. I don't really like John Lennon, but I used it because poor guy was shot by a crazy, So imagine this guy who and John Lennon should not have had any enemy or idiots of that degree, if you know what I mean. And still you have idiots. Imagine this guy who, stepped on other people's cocks somewhere. He has a lot of enemies, like anybody else, like George W. Bush. Do you think he's not under surveillance 100%? So this is another way of showing how information that should be common knowledge, like you would say, the capital of, France is Paris. Okay, move on. What's the news over here? The same with this one, but they made it like he's paranoid. Well, this is it with this one, just so you know how this guy's fake news. And this news is going to work for many people out there. It will work. Oh, he's chickened out. He's so afraid. He's afraid of this. He's afraid of that. And the other article was that Putin has different locations. What was that? The other article. Putin builds identical offices across Russia to conceal his location. A Russian intelligence officer who defected says, "I remember that Joe Biden had, according to that, the White House built the office from the White House identical built somewhere else." And he was supposedly in the White House. Remember that one? And he was in the studio. It's done. It's normal procedure. But somehow, because this guy is a bad dude, we make it like he's this and that. Don't fall for it. Keep walking around the block, okay, guys? And then you're going to realize this is just cheap, low IQ statements. And the guy who defected, good for him. He's going to realize that he's going to be in the ass a few times as he is now important for about 15 minutes, and after that he's going to be discarded. Remember, there are many people who defect and they are, oh, I worked in the system, and they're like very low-ranking workers, employees, and they go overseas in the free world and they say, well, I worked over there, and you find out he was just a low rank, whatever he was, pencil pusher, paper dragging in the office, and he's, oh, I worked in the intelligence services as what? Oh, I was making a connection between the doorman and the garbage personnel. I'm exaggerating, but look through these things, and once you know certain things, these things could not be sold to you as it's sold to the great below 86 IQ 40% of the population. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.